The mahogany-paneled office of First Heritage Bank hadn't changed since I was a child, watching my father approve and reject dreams from behind his imposing desk. Now at 28 I sat on the other side of that desk, a business plan laid out before him. A digital payment platform? My father's laugh echoed off the vintage banking memorabilia that lined the walls. Sarah darling, we deal in real banking here. Solid investments, traditional values. My mother, the bank's head of client relations, perched elegantly on a leather chair beside him, her Chanel suit as perfectly pressed as her practiced smile. Perhaps we could find you a nice position in our retail banking division instead? Something more suitable. I glanced at my phone, checking the latest notification from my development team. Beta testing complete. Platform ready for launch. Waiting for funding green light. The market research is solid, I pressed on, sliding another document across the desk. We're looking at a potential user base of... Sarah, my father interrupted, not even glancing at the papers. First Heritage Bank has been serving this community for 3 generations. We didn't build this institution by chasing every tech fantasy that walks through the door. The loan officer, Mr. Jenkins, who had known me since I was in pigtails, shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Perhaps, sir, we should review the projections. The only projection I need, my father cut him off, is 40 years of banking experience. Digital payment platforms are a dime a dozen. They're not real banking. I took a deep breath, thinking of the 18 months of development, the sleepless nights coding, the market analysis that showed exactly how outdated institutions like First Heritage were becoming. The initial loan request is modest. I tried again. Just enough for the final development phase and marketing launch. My mother's perfectly manicured hand reached across the desk, patting mine in that condescending way she'd perfected over years of dealing with difficult clients. Darling, when you've been in banking as long as we have, you develop an instinct for viable investments. This is simply too risky. My phone buzzed again. Venture capital firm interested. Requesting meeting tomorrow. Risk is part of innovation, I argued, pulling up real-time banking statistics on my tablet. Traditional banks are losing market share to digital platforms. The industry is evolving. Banks don't evolve, my father declared, leaning back in his chair with the confidence of someone who hadn't checked his own bank's market position in years. They endure. Through solid principles and proven methods. Mr. Jenkins cleared his throat. Sir, the digital banking sector's growth rates are actually quite impressive. That will be all, Jenkins, my father waved him away. Sarah, I'm saying this as your father and as a banker. Stick to what you know. Leave the banking to professionals. I closed my laptop slowly, tucking away months of research and projections. And what exactly do you think I know, Dad? You're good with computers, he allowed, as if granting a minor concession. But banking? Real banking? That takes generations of experience, relationships, trust. Like the trust you're showing in me right now? I stood, gathering my materials. My mother straightened, sensing tension. We're only thinking of your future, dear. The banking industry isn't for everyone. Perhaps if you took that position we offered in customer service. I already have a position, I replied quietly, checking another message on my phone. VC meeting confirmed. They're very interested in disrupting traditional banking. Playing with code in your apartment isn't a position, my father scoffed. It's a hobby. When you're ready to be serious about banking, come back and we'll discuss a real role here. As I walked toward the door, I paused. You know, Dad, you're right about one thing. Banking is about trust. But trust isn't just about tradition. Sometimes it's about seeing the future before others do. The future of banking is right here. He gestured around his wood-paneled office, its walls lined with certificates and awards from an era rapidly fading. Solid, stable, unchanging. I smiled slightly, thinking of the venture capital meeting scheduled for tomorrow, of the platform ready to launch, of the market research showing exactly how vulnerable traditional banks like First Heritage had become. Nothing is unchanging, I said softly. Not even banks. Especially not banks. My mother's social radar finally detected something in my tone. Sarah? What exactly are you planning? Planning. I adjusted my simple but impeccably tailored blazer. I'm planning to do exactly what you taught me. Seize opportunities when others miss them. As I left the office, I heard Mr. Jenkins muttering about digital banking trends and market disruption. My father's dismissive laugh followed me down the marble hallway, echoing off walls that had seen 3 generations of bankers who thought they knew exactly what banking should be. They had rejected my loan request. I would acquire their entire loan department. They had dismissed digital banking. I would digitize their banking world. Because sometimes the best response to "too risky" isn't an argument. It's a takeover. My phone buzzed one more time. Second VC firm interested. They love the idea of transforming traditional banking. I smiled as I pushed through the revolving doors into the bright afternoon sun. Sometimes the most valuable banking lesson isn't taught in mahogany offices. It's learned when those offices say no to the future. 6 months later, I stood in the same marble lobby of First Heritage Bank, but this time surrounded by my executive team. The traditional banking posters had been replaced by sleek digital displays showing real-time market data, including the soaring stock price of Phoenix Digital Banking Solutions, my company. The acquisition papers are ready, Maya, my CFO, announced quietly. Final offer: 30% above market value, full digitization of all services, and retention of select staff based on merit evaluation. Through the glass walls of my father's office upstairs, I could see a flurry of activity. The board of directors had convened an emergency meeting after our hostile takeover bid went public this morning. Their world of traditional banking was crumbling faster than their antique architectural columns. My phone buzzed, market responding to acquisition news. First Heritage Bank shares up 45% on takeover speculation. Ms. Davidson, Mr. Jenkins approached nervously, his tie slightly askew. I just wanted to say, about that loan meeting 6 months ago? The one where you tried to speak up about digital banking trends? I smiled slightly. Don't worry, Mr. Jenkins. Your performance review noted that initiative. You'll find your position in the new organization more aligned with your forward-thinking instincts. The elevator dinged and my mother emerged, her perfect composure showing the first cracks I'd ever seen. Sarah, darling, surely we can discuss this? As a family. Like we discussed my loan request? I checked another notification. Or perhaps like you discussed my suitable position in retail banking? Maya stepped forward with a tablet. The board is requesting your presence. They've reviewed the initial offer. The lobby had filled with employees, whispering among themselves as they watched their banking world transform. Through the windows, news vans were beginning to arrive, their satellite dishes rising above the classical facade of First Heritage. Your father is upset, my mother tried again, her social networking skills straining to handle this unprecedented situation. He's about to be more than upset, I replied, walking toward the elevator. He's about to be unemployed. The boardroom fell silent as I entered, 12 pairs of eyes turning to watch the former loan rejection candidate become their potential owner. My father sat at the head of the table, his face a shade of red that clashed with the oil paintings of past bank presidents behind him. This is outrageous, he sputtered. You can't possibly have the resources to buy First Heritage? I interrupted, nodding to Maya, who displayed our financials on the boardroom's newly installed screens. Phoenix Digital's market cap is 12 times your bank's current value. Our user base is growing at 300% quarterly. And that risky payment platform you rejected? It just processed its billionth transaction. The board members shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting between the numbers on screen and their soon-to-be former president. But our traditions, one elderly director protested. Our banking heritage will be preserved in the lobby museum, I assured him. Along with all the other banking artifacts from the past. The future of First Heritage will be digital, efficient, and profitable. You're talking about dismantling 3 generations of banking experience. My father's voice shook with rage or fear, perhaps both. No, I corrected him. I'm talking about evolving 3 generations of stagnation. Would you like to see your market share trends for the past 5 years? Or should I show the board how many customers you've lost to digital platforms? The screens filled with graphs and charts, each one a damning indictment of First Heritage's resistance to change. The board's expressions shifted from skepticism to concern as they absorbed the reality of their position. The offer is fair, Maya noted professionally. More than fair, given the bank's current trajectory. And if we refuse, my father demanded, then we acquire your competitors instead, I replied calmly. And watch First Heritage become increasingly irrelevant until its shareholders demand change anyway. Would you prefer that option? The board chairman cleared his throat. Perhaps we should review the full proposal. My phone buzzed again. Media requesting comment on family angle of takeover. Banking dynasty disrupted by founder's daughter, trending. You have 1 hour, I informed the board, standing to leave. After that, the offer goes to your largest competitor. I'm sure they'll be more appreciative of digital innovation. My father stood abruptly. Sir, you can't do this. This bank is our legacy. No, Dad, I turned at the door. This bank was your comfort zone. The legacy is what happens next. The hour passed like a digital counter, each minute transforming First Heritage Bank from a family dynasty into a case study in disruption. Through the boardroom's glass walls, I watched my parents' carefully constructed world dissolve into new pixels of reality. The board has voted, Maya announced, reviewing the final tally. 11-1 in favor of accepting the acquisition offer. My father's lone dissenting vote hung in the air like the last echo of an analog age. The other board members were already reaching for their phones, checking their stock options in light of the morning's 45% surge. The press release goes live in 5 minutes, my head of communications noted. CNBC is standing by for your interview. They're particularly interested in the rejected loan to hostile takeover angle. Through the lobby's soaring windows, we could see more media arriving, their modern vans a stark contrast to First Heritage's classical columns. The story was too perfect to resist. Daughter denied loan returns to buy entire bank. Sarah, my mother approached, her Chanel suit slightly less pristine than usual. Surely we can discuss this privately? As a family. Like you discussed my future privately? I gestured to Maya, who pulled up more data on the screens. Let's talk about First Heritage's private discussions instead. Like the board meeting last year where you dismissed digital banking as a temporary trend? My father's face went from red to white. How did you have access to your board minutes? I smiled slightly. The same way I had access to your customer migration rates, your technology gap analysis, and your declining market position. Your cybersecurity was as outdated as your banking philosophy. Mr. Jenkins appeared with more documents. Ms. Davidson, the transition team is ready to begin. And, well, there's a line of employees outside wanting to know about their positions. All employees will be evaluated based on merit and adaptability, I confirmed. Those who understand the future of banking will have a place in it. Those who don't. I glanced at my father, will receive generous retirement packages. Retirement? My father stood so quickly his chair rolled back. You're forcing me out of my own bank. Your bank. I raised an eyebrow. Check the ownership documents, Dad. As of 3 minutes ago, First Heritage is a subsidiary of Phoenix Digital. And we have a strict policy against nepotism. The screens around us filled with breaking news. Phoenix Digital acquires First Heritage Bank. Rejected loan applicant returns as bank owner. Traditional banking meets digital disruption. My mother sank into a chair, her social planning circuits completely overloaded. But the charity board, the country club committees, will all need new leadership, I confirmed. Amazing how many doors close when you lose control of the town's oldest bank. Maya stepped forward with more tablets. The integration timeline is prepared. We begin digital transformation immediately. Digital transformation? My father scoffed weakly. You mean destroying everything we built? No, I corrected him. I mean saving what's left of it. Would you like to see the projection models that you refused to look at 6 months ago? The ones showing exactly how obsolete First Heritage was becoming. The boardroom's new screens filled with data. Customer migration trends, digital payment adoption rates, traditional banking decline metrics. Each graph, each chart, each analysis proved what they'd refused to see. Your grandfather founded this bank. My father tried one last time. He built it on handshakes and trust. And now I'm building it on algorithms and innovation, I replied. Trust isn't just about tradition anymore, Dad. It's about adapting to how people actually want to bank. My phone buzzed continuously with congratulations from investors, interview requests from financial media, and updates on First Heritage's soaring stock price. The severance packages are generous, I noted, watching my parents process their new reality. Though given your resistance to change, it's more than the shareholders might think you deserve. Mr. Jenkins approached again, almost apologetically. The employees are, well, they're starting to post on social media about the takeover. The younger staff seem quite excited about the digital transformation. Of course they are, I replied. They've been waiting for banking to enter their century. Now it finally will. My father stood by the boardroom window, watching his banking empire transform in real time. The digital displays in the lobby now showed Phoenix Digital's logo alongside First Heritage's classical insignia, tradition meeting disruption in high-resolution clarity. All those lectures about real banking, I mused, gathering my materials. All those dismissive comments about technology and risk. Would you like to know the real risk, Dad? He turned slightly, his banking dynasty crumbling around him. The real risk was ignoring change, I continued. The real risk was dismissing innovation because it didn't fit your definition of banking. The real risk was saying no to the future when it asked for a loan. The elevator opened onto the lobby, where employees gathered around the new digital displays, watching their traditional bank transform into a financial technology leader. They had rejected my loan request for being too risky. I had acquired their entire bank because they were too safe. They had dismissed digital banking as a trend. I had turned their trend dismissal into a transformation. Because sometimes the best business lesson isn't taught in mahogany offices or marble halls. Sometimes it's learned when those offices and halls become yours. And as the press gathered and the stock soared, I couldn't help but think. Sometimes the most valuable banking transaction isn't a loan approval. It's a takeover that proves just how expensive loan rejection can be.